Hi, I did not announce that I was coming on. I didn't know I was coming on. So if you end up joining me live, let me know. Say hi. Type your name in the comments. Tell me where you're joining from. Um, I'm going to talk a little bit today about glucose and sugar metabolism and what that means. And is it good? Is it bad? Um, and a little bit about gut health. So, uh, I have always, I'm going to start off asking and just who's ever had a fasting glucose test or regularly gets their glucose monitored. Okay. Um, if you are someone who has any sort of disease or disorder, you probably monitor it a lot more. Many people, it's part of like their annual lab work, right? So it's something that I have in our health journey. I'll say our because mine and my husband's has coincided with each other's. Uh, we have been very conscious of our sugar intake. And so he has done some incredible fasting. I have not had the same willpower, we'll put it that way. But he has had some incredible fasting that he has done where he has completely removed all sugar, so including fruit, everything. And then he has done just no added sugar. Those months I can do that. And it really brought to light for us uh, how much added sugar was in things that you wouldn't usually think. And I'm not gonna be able to think of anything off the top of my head right now, but it was just really astonishing to us, the levels of added sugar. And so that's just been a natural part of our health journey. And when I get my lab work done, my fasting glucose has always been pretty much normal range, as has his. And so, in the last couple of weeks, there has been an uprising of conversation regarding this topic, and because of new developments in the food and nutrition world, right? And so, it's brought me to doing some research about it. Now, I'm streaming in a couple of groups. So, I and on my YouTube page. And so there's going to be some of you that are much more aware of what I'm talking about when it comes to that research specifically. And some of you are going to be like, I don't know what you're talking about. And that's okay. Because really what I want to do today is talk about the baseline, the issues underlying why would you want to know if your glucose levels are good or bad. And so, so I got a couple notes. So I'm gonna try and keep this as short because I could really go in depth, but I'm gonna try and keep it short. So, first thing we need to understand is that our pancreas has two functions. It has what we call like an internal function, where it secretes hormones, including insulin, and the insulin comes from a certain part. It's called the islets of Langerhans, I think. And then there are different cells from there that help to do different things. Okay, so produce insulin, produce glucagon, and also another one that helps to regulate both of those. Okay, so you just need to know that the pancreas has a function and it releases things, and it is important for your glucose metabolism, for making sure everything stays in homeostasis. Okay, and then your pancreas also has a role in excreting digestive enzymes. Now, I have a whole stream I did on digestive enzymes and that whole thing. So if you want to know more about that, I will find that link for you and you can go into that. But just know that your pancreas has two roles, both your gut health and your glucose metabolism. And that's going to become important because I'm going to talk about fiber and what that does as well. Okay, so when your metabolism is out of whack, it can be your glucose metabolism specifically can be out of whack for a couple of reasons. So the first one is that there can be a defect in the secretion so insulin isn't getting produced, it's not coming out into the system. Insulin is necessary in order to bring glucose out of the blood and into the cells, and that's where when the insulin brings the glucose out of the bloodstream into the cells, that's where it's turned into energy. But if it just sits in the blood, that's where it becomes problematic, where it's not getting used properly. Okay. So if your insulin is not, if the pancreas is not working to produce the insulin, and the glucose is elevating in the blood, that can become a problem. The other thing, hey, Chris, the other thing is that when we eat, okay, and I've got notes. I want you guys to know, like, I am reading off notes because I'm trying to put this all together, and it's fascinating to me. And so I want to help put it all together for you too. So when we eat, I talked about those different cells from that area of the pancreas. They're called beta cells. Those cells naturally increase and release insulin in order to grab the glucose that's being released from what we're eating and bring it into the cells for metabolism. Okay. And so as the insulin works to bring the glucose out of the bloodstream, our glucose levels naturally decrease. So what's important to know there is that it is natural and normal for your glucose numbers to rise directly after eating. What's important, though, is that it also comes back down, and it does that in a good way, that you're not seeing that you don't have your glucose spiking super high and dropping really quick, that metabolism occurs regularly and is regular to each individual. So there's no set time that I can give you of like, you want to make sure that it's lowered in this time. What you don't want to see, though, is really high spikes, and you don't want to see elevated fasting glucose. So if you've gone at least 8 hours without eating anything, you should have glucose numbers that are relatively low. I did write. So you want to have definitely less than 126. So if your fasting glucose is regularly, there may be some abnormalities, of which this week, last weekend, I gave myself a concussion. It wasn't anything fun. I literally stood up into the corner of our television, but I did it really hard apparently. And so I was testing to get some baseline numbers this week because I wanted to have data when I started using this new product. And I noticed that my glucose levels my fasting glucose was elevated for me. Usually I'm in like the 80s, 90s, and I was above 100 every single day. And so then that stimulated me to do other research, and that is actually can be a sign of concussion. So interestingly enough, I'm not going to go into that, but just know that you need to know what your regular fasting glucose is so that you also know what your abnormal is, because everyone's abnormal can be a little bit different. But you can keep that idea of 126 as like a good marker. If you're regularly above that, then your body is leaving glucose in the bloodstream more than it should. Okay, so when our blood glucose does rise, so we eat, glucose levels go up, that actually stimulates the liver to help in our uptake of glucose, to store it or to use it in our muscles, things like that. If our pancreas is not working, if our liver is not working, if something is off, something's wrong, right? Then that glucose stays in the blood. And instead of the liver taking it up like it's supposed to, if the liver doesn't regularly consume glucose from our blood, it's actually going to release more glucose. And so an already elevated glucose level is going to go up more. So you could have issues at the liver, you can have issues at the pancreas, you could have issues at the cellular level where the insulin is being released and it's supposed to open the gateways to the cells to take up the glucose, but if there's something at the cellular level, then that can also cause issues. So there's a lot of ways where glucose can become problematic. Okay. So that's just I wanted people to understand that there is normal rises in glucose that should happen because it's what stimulates our body to work properly. And then there is abnormal, and you want to be able to, you want to know the difference. Okay. So for those of you that kind of know where I'm going with this, or like what I'm talking about, there is some new research in the food and health world about turning sugar, which glucose, into fiber. And it's like, why? Why would we want to do that? My first question was, doesn't fiber make you not go to the bathroom? But it actually, fiber has a lot of really good uses for our bodies. And so what I want to talk about first, though, and most importantly, is the role of fiber in our gut health. Because I talked already that the pancreas has a role in secreting digestive enzymes. Okay. So then, and it's also got a role in secreting what we need for glucose metabolism. Now we're talking about what else has a role in our gut health. Okay. So fiber actually has a very important role in our digestive systems and in the balance of our guts. There are several members of the gut microbiota, all the ickies, all the good ickies, okay, in your gut that have been linked to us then developing metabolic disease. Metabolic disease comes from that poor management of glucose. So your gut, so we talked about the pancreas and all that, right? Well, if your gut isn't in check, if your gut health is not good, you also can be at risk for developing an issue in glucose metabolism. So maybe you don't currently have an issue, but you do know that your gut's off, that there's something wrong with that. Well, that can be a precursor or a warning sign that you may run into issues with that down the line. Okay. And so having balanced bacterial component is really important for maintaining that homeostasis. Okay. So one of the dietary components that can influence and again, guys, I'm looking at my notes. Okay. That can influence our bacterial composition is fiber. Okay. So I'm not going to get into all the different types of fiber. There's a ton, but know that this product specifically that we are talking about, right, is a good fiber. It is a fiber that has been studied is a good fiber. So just know that. We'll just keep it simple because I could get real in depth. So there was a major study done, and I'm very picky about my research. And so this is it's a review of randomized controlled trials, which is the highest level of research on humans, also really important. And it looked at what fiber does in 3 different populations. So it looked at healthy, normal weight, obese, overweight, and those already with metabolic disease. So it looked at all 3 populations. And what it found is that fiber in healthy, normal weight individuals had a positive impact on gut microbiota composition. So overall, good, healthy bacteria improved, okay? And it improved signs of metabolic regulation. And so those signs were things like resting glucose, fasting glucose. There's a whole list in the article, and I can link the article if you want that. So it helped. In someone that was already healthy, normal weight, having good fiber added to their diet helped in the gut microbiota as well as their metabolic markers, which were probably already fairly good considering that they were healthy, normal weight individuals. Okay. So, so really, really positive there. Then there were overweight and obese. And again, there were 6 studies done that looked at that, and the fiber improved the gut microbiota there, as well as improved the metabolic risk factors. Then they looked at those that already have metabolic related disorders, okay, already having an issue with metabolism and all in different areas, and all of the studies in those with metabolic disorders reported a change in the gut health, as well as a decrease in metabolic markers related to glucose control. Okay, so what, right? Well, what this means is that this new product could very well, maybe you don't necessarily have a glucose metabolism issue. Guess what? This isn't going to change that. It's going to regulate if regulation is needed, and then it's going to not if there's nothing that needs to be controlled. But because of the transformation into good healthy fiber, it will, based on what this is showing, anyone would benefit from good fiber being added to their diet, as far as their gut health and their metabolic markers were concerned. And then you add in the other ingredients, which I will talk about on a separate stream. And it's, again, it can potentially be very good for nearly anyone. So I'm going to end it there because we're already at 16 minutes. I hope that brings some light. Please drop questions and let me, I would love to answer. I love looking into this type of stuff. I'm really excited to see what comes from all of this. And this is the tip of the iceberg as far as what I've been doing in researching it, but I wanted to at least start with what's supposed to be happening in our body, and how can something that is taking sugar and transforming it into fiber, how can that benefit? And why would someone want that if they don't have a glucose issue? Or, like what are we looking at here? And so from what I've found so far, it really could benefit nearly everyone because of that direct link from the fiber on our gut health. And then also, sugar is an issue. Sugar is an issue in this world. Not everyone can do what my husband did and cut out all sugar, literally all sugar, for months at a time. We all should, but not many people can do that. And so in light of that, knowing that sugar is such an issue in our nation, this has the potential to be truly transformational for so many. So thank you for joining me, for those that hopped on. And please, if you watch the replay, drop questions. Let me know what you thought. And I am happy to bring more information. And I will be bringing more information in the coming days and weeks. Recovering from this concussion, but I'm getting there. So today has been a good day. So everyone have a wonderful evening and a great weekend. And I will see you and talk to you soon.